Run!
You there? Check, check.
I am here.
All right. Good deal.
This is actually working with me. How about that?
Good. You don't have any echo, right?
Echo, echo, echo.
No, you're good.
Trying to get rid of all these other things in the meantime. Let's see. All right. This is okay. I can reduce that. Oh, you sent me, I believe. Let's see. Oh, yeah, you did. All right. Let me open that up. Let's see if this works.
Yeah, I love their trade.
There we go. All right.
Getting situated.
I think I see you. I see the middle room is empty, and it looks like I think so. I have the Twitch open, so we're good.
All right. Yeah, we are. It's 4 o'clock on the dot. Snowman should be here shortly, and I'm just trying to make sure that I've got everything set up properly. Bear with me.
Is he saying through the Twitch or through the Zoom? How's that?
Hang on.
Wow.
Yeah, you got it. Your local video is not on. It doesn't look like.
Oh, no, let me see.
There you go. Nice. Looks good. And I'll get it all fixed up on the screen here.
Yeah, what happened to my what happened to my Easy Rider guys? I lost them.
Oh, your background? Yeah.
Can't have a conversation about my samurai swords there.
That's good backdrop though.
It's real deal, and that's not green screen.
Yeah, no. Everything I know about samurai swords, I've learned from watching Pawn Stars.
Let me see. While I'm doing that, maybe I'm gonna go in there. Do I change that a little bit or not? Let me see. I'm trying to figure that out. What happened to that?
I'm not sure. Let's see.
Yeah, you recognize that terrible handwriting.
think it must have been the setup. I lost it. Huh.
It's a puppy card.
All right, I'm gonna go back to the. Let me see.
Dusty, would you mind letting Cat Dog in before you go to your room?
All right, test. Are you still able to hear me? Okay.
I still hear you fine.
All right, perfect. I had an echo locally that was I had like sent a signal to my headsets twice, so I was getting,
Yeah.
me too much. No mas.
Set it.
Let's test this. Can you hear this?
I can hear it. I'm looking at a commercial. Somebody's speaking I guess it must be a commercial from
Twitch. Yeah, Twitch runs ads. It's
For always remembering you.
It's like an avocado, I guess, that they're eating there.
You know what to say, Pop.
So we're just waiting for Snooman now to get here. It's Scott is our intrepid producer, and then when he gets here, we can start working through the kinks. Let me see. Can you do you hear this horn?
I do hear that horn.
All right, good.
I'm trying to get back to.
Meep is here. The cat. We've got one cat on scene, asleep behind me.
Okay. I should have brought up the dog that we're taking care of.
The dog whose tongue is stuck in like the other direction.
Yeah. We're watching another dog called Zoe.
Oh yeah.
Bob's, it's, I guess, his wife's son, or his son is, they dropped off this little dog there, so,
Is that a child?
let's see.
Oh, I just assumed
Am I
it was
not
a cat.
seeing this?
Finish by saying, well, thank you so much, Mom. I'm very grateful for it.
Okay, let me reduce that. I still have an ad on the Twitch side.
Yeah, that'll go away eventually.
Okay.
Let's see here.
So I went back to the Zoom. In the meantime, the Zoom section there.
Yeah, let's see, and then we'll have Abby volunteered. She'll hop into Twitch real quick once we're all here and ready to go, and listen to us chat for a little bit to make sure the final product. I have just while we're waiting for Snooman, I have on my end. I'm using like a mixer, so like like an audio board, like a soundboard. So it's plugged into my computer, and what it does is it uses software to separate like us talking from music, from other signals, and then it puts them all back together into one package. That's your broadcast that goes out. So that's like the main signal that pops out for everybody to hear. So Abby will be able to tell us like how do we sound, and it's trial and error, right? Like I don't expect like success. I was saying to Scott before, like success, if we could, get through an hour of making this work and talk to each other, I will consider that as, for episode 1, proof of concept, we did it.
Yeah, proof of concept. Okay. I'm just bothered by the fact that I'm just seeing the ad. I'm not seeing you on the Twitch side, though. I can hear you.
That's weird that you're still seeing an ad on. You could just try, if it's still showing an ad on Twitch, just refresh the browser, see if that does it. And then I'll figure out after we record, there's Twitch is ad based, like, so all this is free. So the downside to you get like all this great recording and broadcasting capability, but part of it is they pay for it with ads. So they have to show a certain number of ads per hour. But what they do is they allow you as a streamer to like tweak how that is, and I have it in, as most people stream for money, so they want to show more ads. I don't do this for money, so I have it like basically turned down to what the lowest level is. But there should be a way that, because you and you're now that you have a Twitch account, I think I can add you to my channel so that like when we do stuff like this, you're not getting ads.
Yeah, I saw that there. So now, okay. I did go back. I refreshed it, and now that Too bad I got to work on that the back screen, but that's fine. Let them tell you what. You know what? Let's show them a little bit of the.
I like, it's I don't use Zoom that much, but I will take a look to see where the where the faults
It's
are.
in this. It's in the setup when you first started out. When you do this whole setup of us to test your microphone, test your speakers, and then it says, "Would you like to set up a virtual thing?" I don't have a green screen, but it does allow you like 6 different. I can be at the beach. I can be in the office, and then you can upload any. That's where I was able to upload. I'd actually had Grandpa upload it too. I was going to have him in the background.
Nice.
I think that'd be a good conversation piece to see a guy on a 1917
yeah.
Harley, you know.
Yeah, I wonder what. Try finding the parts for that.
Did I tell a story I went talking about Aunt Eleanor?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember they telling me, you know, that Grandpa, between Aunt Eleanor and Aunt Ronnie, talking about the Harley. And it was interesting, these two family members are arguing with each other because one is saying it's a Harley. The other one is saying, no, it's an Indian. And now I'm salivating because
Like the actual picture in that same picture that you showed me, they're trying to say, was that a Harley or an Indian? Was that the argument?
Prior to being shown the picture.
Oh, okay, I got you.
They both saying it's a Harley. Anyway, I said, any proof of that? And that's when the picture came out. And I said, well, that's a Harley. But then of course, Aunt Ronnie was the type said, no, he had an Indian. No, you didn't. So now finally, I didn't care whether it was a Harley or an Indian. And I said, where is the bike?
Yeah, right.
Is it in a barn? Is it in like 6 feet of mud?
Salvageable.
You know, and so that mystery was never unraveled.
No, and never. No, there's an actual photo of it, but nobody ever has been able to find said bike since. I take it.
Yep. Nope. That's it. And she would not even let me have the picture until I had to replicate that picture.
Really?
And until and so even then that is not. That's a copy of the original.
Okay.
But so I went with her, but I did manage to convince them to give me the registration.
Okay. Interesting.
And that registration for 1917, I always play it at the Harley dealership, and I say to the guys, all right, fellas, 1917 Harley registration. How much do you think Grandpa paid for this registration? And I love the guessing that goes on with that. Would you want to venture a guess?
Yes. What he paid to register it?
Yes.
$17.
$17.
$17. That's probably too much.
Yeah, that's too much. Dude.
Way too much. Yeah, 1917 was, I think,
Think about it. Polish.
75 cents.
Worker.
75 cents? Too high?
No, you were too high, and then you went too low. $2.50 back in 1917.
To register a bike. Jesus, that's really low.
When you think about it, then what could possibly a Polish iron worker at that time being married and raising two kids, Grandma must have been ready to cut his cannolis off.
Yeah, no kidding, right? And how at that time in 1917, how long would they have been in the States at that point?
Yeah, because at that time, I think also the picture, if you look at the picture supposedly was taken in Brewster.
Okay.
When there was it was open plains, open fields.
Yeah. Long before there was anybody up there.
Anybody up there, yeah.
All right. Interesting. Well, that, I tell you, that's one of those, I watched too many of those History Channel shows where I have seen so many bikes like that, it picked apart or put back together from pieces, and here's a tank and a part of a frame, and just how hard it is to find the parts for those. And I was watching yesterday. I had the sound off on it, but I could see they one of those, I think it was Pickers, one of those American Pickers history show, and they were in like a trailer, and the guy just had like, it was all like front ends, like I guess would be Springer front ends and forks for bikes, just lined up going down the wall, and they were just going through them and knew exactly what each part was. I can't imagine committing all that stuff to memory, but whoever put it in the shed remembered what it was. So hang on. Hang on 1 second. I got Snooman texting me here, and I'm going to have Abby jump in to see if we can test our audio real quick. You sit tight. I'll be right back in 1 second.
All right.
All right, Abby's going to dip in and check for us to make sure that we are sounding good. I am not sure where Snooman is, but that's okay. We're going to keep rolling anyhow. And let me just get this pop there. All right, so once Abby gives us the green light and lets me know that we've got good sound, we'll go ahead and dive in. And the neat thing about doing this live is, like I said yesterday, if we want to be really polished, I can go back and later edit this so the last 10 minutes are not here. It just begins with a show starting or whatever. That's not really my goal. Is not to try to be overproduced in that regard. So this is what makes it easy. We can just start when we're ready to start and get rolling. And probably should, I'm going to try to keep it to like an hour so that way, we don't get too long in the tooth. And from doing other podcasts and shows like this, I find it's about the time like you start to run out of energy after, a certain amount of time too. So it's better to keep it fresh.
Yep.
Pop, were you able to hear us? We good? Pop.
Hola. Estoy aquí. Ayúdame.
There's no music. You can see.
To speak. I am speaking.
All right. All sounds good. Awesome. There will be music, but sounds like we're good. Isn't that cool? You can see, if you look on the Twitch view, you can see Abby typing in the chat room window. That's Paparella letting us know that she listening in, and we're all good. So, all right, let's rock and roll then. Hang on 1 second. Let me just do this real quick. And all right, we are good. Okay, starting to record. I just gave Newman a shout so he knows what's going on. Probably a missed connection there, no problem. All right, so we're going to go ahead and kick it off. And to kick things off, of course, we need, eventually we can set this to get some dancers and set this to music, or set the video to it, but... I might have to trim this down a little bit. We'll see, but I made this using GarageBand.
I can't hear anything.
No music?
No música.
Uh-oh. Ooh. baby. All right, let's double check and make sure that our mixer's all set here. Stream Deck is set to go to system. Routing. Should be good. Let me know if you hear this horn.
Yep,
All right.
we hear it.
Yeah,
I
how
got
about...
that, but I didn't hear the music. I wanted to jive with you.
All right, that I'll have to go back and take a look. How about this?
Newman!
I heard that Newman.
Yeah. All right, good. So that's good. But this one you didn't hear. Let me just check.
I just heard a brief couple of chords.
Yeah, that might be. I'll have to figure out. That could be on my end of the stream file. But that's our kickoff music bringing us in. So this is episode 1. Welcome to the Old and the Way. This is the Dude of IB. I'm joined by my co-host, Sensei Carlos, live from Flushing, Queens. On the other side of the country, I'm here in Imperial Beach. Newman is somewhere. I'm not sure. Our intrepid producer Emeritus, he's doing something, but hopefully he'll be able to join us. This is the first episode, so this is a pilot proof of concept, so you guys gonna have to bear with us. We don't have a very big live audience today, so that gives us lots of latitude, TOC, for us to kind of make mistakes and bump our head and do all that good stuff. So if you're ready to begin, we're gonna go ahead and dive in. Again, welcome to the show. A quick time check. It's 4:20 here on the Pacific. On the Pacific Coast, 7:20 Eastern Time, depending on where you are.
At the tone, the time will be 26 Railroad.
Got all kinds of things on the soundboard that we're going to play with. Temperature here, I'm not sure what you've got in Flushing, Carlos. I've got 70 degrees here. What's, Sensei, what's your temperature?
We got 41 over here.
That is not riding weather.
It was for me today.
You got out?
I got out there on 41 degrees with the only electrical gear was vest and on and off electrical gloves. So, but that did not stop me from doing 100 miles today.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. So where'd you, I obviously know where you left from. Where did you tell us about where you rode to?
Well, you know, it was a shakeout ride. Riding. I ride a 2017 Tri-Glide, which basically is a Harley trike. And this was after it had an accident, rear-ended back in September. 4 months of repairs, and parts finally came in. I finally got it on the road, and so I decided to give it a shakeout cruise with doing 100 miles. And,
Not bad.
Basically. Where else do you test out a somewhat new trike? By going to the beach where it's windy, it's cold.
Yeah, right.
And I went to the city of Long Beach, went to all the way almost to the exit where it says Fire Island, and there was not a soul on the road.
Oh, man, you had the whole thing to yourself, I bet.
You know,
Well, I was thinking about you yesterday. What is it? How has it been? And I'm going to derail us immediately. But how difficult or not difficult was it for you to learn how to corner and handle on the trike? And does that impact, like, if you go and ride twisties or something with a group? You know, is it harder to stay with a group, or, you know, tell me about that. How's the difference from your last bike to the trike?
You know. Prior to that, the adjustment is, if you think of it as a car, number one, where in a motorcycle you gotta be either in that. Normally, you'd like to be in the left lane or in the right lane, or in the I should say the left groove or the right groove of a track. You try to stay away. So now you have to get out of that mindset of left groove, right groove, and you're in the center.
Right.
Because you got to remember.
You got to put yourself in the center. I didn't mean I interrupted you. You've got to put yourself in the center, right? Is that what you're saying?
In the center, number one. So you got to remember you have a wheel to the left of you. So where you normally take that corner, and you might come a little closer to that corner. So you got to be aware of your distance. One of the things. So if you ride it, my mindset is advice, ride it in the center like a car. And that gets you from either doing some serious damage on those tires or on the fender when you forget that you cannot lean.
Yeah.
Leaning also is not a commodity
Yeah.
where you get that balance.
Right. I didn't think about that. That's true.
But while you're stuck in bumper to bumper traffic and you have to waddle your way up or kind of put your feet down, I just sit in my throne there, listen to the radio, and I
Yeah.
don't have to I never put my feet down,
That's nice.
you know.
Yeah.
So into your question about riding with a group,
Yeah, in the corners. How was that?
you know what? The biggest difference, see, when in riding a two-wheeler, you do a push and pull. You know, you lean into the ride, you push against the handlebar, and you get into the groove. You get into a swing, into
Right.
a rhythm. The difference with a trike is you have to do a push and pull upper shoulder technique.
Okay.
So basically, you gotta pull that. If you're going to the left, you gotta pull that left handlebar, and with your right hand, push out, left and right, left and right. You're steering it.
So you're pulling with your left and pushing with your right.
Correct.
Okay.
And you are now literally steering it. So what surprised me out of the adjustment was how much upper body strength
Right.
I needed versus before. You have the machine and your weight. You're doing that tango.
Yeah.
You're getting into the groove and you're sliding in. I went last weekend because a couple of the guys were going to go on some twisties, and they said, "Sensei, you got what it takes? Come on, old man,
Yeah.
stay with us."
Right.
And well, I showed them that on three wheels, I could take those corners,
Yeah.
you know, without hesitation. Tires never went up and everything, but it does make you work harder.
Yeah.
You do work harder.
Yeah,
But,
that's really interesting. It's like a counter steering is twice the work. It seems like.
It's exactly right. Now, I've been told many times of seasoned veterans that they made these many mistakes. Don't put your foot down. You don't have to put your foot down. Well, I
Right.
never put it down, but you can run over your own foot.
Yeah, yeah, that I wouldn't want to do. That sounds like an
know.
uncomfortable way to learn that. I've cooked my feet a few times on the
Yeah.
tailpipe, but
But you know what? If I had 11 motorcycles prior to this, and Auntie Franny, you know, my wife there, she would rode with me for half of those bikes, and she had stopped, and she came up to me one day, said, "You know, would you consider getting a trike?" And there's that misconception about you get a trike, that means you're old, your knees are shot, your back is shot, your health, you're too old. That's why you got a trike.
like you're acquiescing or giving in or something.
Yeah, and
Right.
there's that stigma. There
Right.
really is that stigma, you know. But once I said, if I got a trike, would you ride? She says yes.
Done.
So it was a done deal.
Yeah, I
And
think
there
that's a
But there's
no-brainer.
that stigma that goes with it. Just because you get a three-wheeler, I feel the wind like you. I'm feeling I got the bugs in my face, and I got the wind and the resistance. I have a windshield and everything. From my way, from where I'm sitting to the front, it looks like I'm riding my regular bike, except I'm always upright.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
you
Yeah,
know?
I
But
I'm a newer writer, so I don't have the same, the same sense of the stigma. But I do see, what I've seen is it seems like it's hard for me to say that more people are riding them, but it seems like they are increasing in popularity from what I've heard. It seems like, I don't know how long Harley has made the Tri-Glide, but the dealership where I bought my bike at Coronado Beach in San Diego they have quite a few tries in there. So, if they're dedicating that much floor space to them, they must be moving them. You know what I mean?
but think about it. People don't realize that the Tri-Glide is really, I can't say how many generations, but you look at the police server car.
Yeah.
The police server car, police officers were already riding trikes and delivery men, milk folks, the Harley, as soon as the Harley came around, somebody decided, this would be good for deliveries.
Yeah.
And they put a box in the back, And so they've been riding
Yeah.
these box type cars. It just took off. It was for about, I think, if I remember the history, about 30 years it kept on going, and then it kind of dropped off, and then it picked up again, realizing there's stability, there's security there, there's a different way. I mean, I just saw a video of a guy riding in the snow and doing figure eights in
Yeah.
a parking lot with snow.
Yeah, aren't there wasn't there I was watching something else recently where there was like a period of time, and in my mind I want to say like 60s and 70s, where chopping VWs into trikes, like basically they were like, I'd almost like a carriage, like a horse carriage kind of trike setup.
yeah.
That was like, and they sold kits to do it, like to the point where it wasn't just like guys doing it in their garage, Frankenstein. Like there was actual legit kits you could buy to make it do it.
Yeah, there was all sorts of things back then. I mean, but when I were thinking about the customization and the creativity, I still remember one of my last Hondas, and most of my rides were all Hondas. And I remember I was taking my cruiser Honda, and it was 1100 Shadow, and I was didn't realize I was slowly customizing it to look like a Harley.
Yeah. Subconsciously or whatever.
And my buddy, big Mr. D from Dominic Motorcycle said, "Calls, you're making into a Harley. What's your problem?
Sell that
And
thing.
At that time, Harley didn't have the wealth of custom aftermarket companies that were there to say, you know what, there's a thriving market with customization, and in the Harley mentality. Think about it.
Right.
You got a bike and you started saying, here's this old school ride, but what can make it personalized to you?
Yeah.
And the Harley mindset allows you to be creative, while Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki just like was happy. Here, this is the vanilla bike.
Yeah.
Buy it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, and that speaks there is an entire there's an entire psychology around you think of different kinds of people that those products or that those types of bikes would be marketed to. And I find this fascinating because there's a correlation, when we'll get back to on track in a minute, but there's a correlation too with computers where like an Apple, like you and I've talked about this, a MacBook is basically a sealed aluminum case, right? You can't get in or out of it. And Apple, nor can you an iPhone or something. Apple is a closed environment. Like all of their software and their hardware is what you'd call a closed system, meaning they don't want you messing around with it or getting under the hood. You buy it and use it the way it comes. There's no aftermarket market. So whereas, a PC is kind of the opposite in that you can Frankenstein it and you're using all different parts. So very similar to the Honda Harley comparison in that some people just want to get on it and go and never think about it and not have to tweak with it. And, to that person, like they're scared at looking at the engine and they want to put a fairing over it or something like that, maybe, so that anyway, it's definitely speaks to who you are. I think, that's you want what your style is.
And that's what Harley really gave, I've told you I've had ridden 11 types of bikes, and the first 4 or 5 were Hondas and the other 6 were Harleys. And I think somebody said to me, well, how did you transition from the Honda? I said, I want my motorcycle to sound like a motorcycle.
Yeah.
I want it to rumble. I don't want it to be an efficient sewing machine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There's some, so, that's a good, that's a good segue and a good place for us to talk. And I will, quickly, it's 4:33 Pacific time here in the 7:33 Eastern time. 69 degrees. We lost one, so it's cooling off here on the West Coast. We don't have a sponsor for this episode since where it's our first episode. So because of that, for our inaugural episode, our sponsor is Imperial Beach Customs.
Ooh.
You cannot be naked. You need clothes. We sell some stuff. Come check it out. ImperialBeachCustoms.com. That's where you can get all of your Old and In the Way and Dude of IB, Team Dharma, and Imperial Beach gear. And my lovely co-host here, along with our intrepid producer, wherever he is, will be receiving some Old and In the Way gear. So you guys will get some stuff in the mail, so you'll have some swag. And for everybody else who's not on the show, you can certainly check it out at ImperialBeachCustoms.com. We're gonna move things around a little bit. I wanted to talk about some introductions a little bit and get into a little bit about what you ride in your. I want to go back to the bikes that you've had, and I want to tell folks a little bit about where I'm at too, so we can level set with our listeners. And then we're going to get into the long road, which is the subject of the rituals of preparing for and surviving a long ride on a motorcycle or a trike or a Can-Am or whatever. By the way, before I derail myself, I asked you that question about cornering on a trike. I was out maybe a month ago with the group I ride with on Sundays, and one of the riders, she had taken a spill on her Indian a while ago and did something to her wrist, and she said she just wasn't really able to get in, to control a two-wheeler the same, and she switched to a Can-Am. So we went out and proceeded to get into an area here in San Diego called the Playground, which is a lot of twisties. And I got to tell you, she was in front of me, and I wasn't sure. I thought about it for like a split second, like, I wonder how this thing goes, how those ride into the corner. I couldn't tell you because she was gone. I didn't see her again. So, they must handle pretty well.
You know what? When you have the front suspension.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think about that.
You know, you're talking about there's a different tolerance there. You're talking about front weight, front suspension, 2 tires there versus 1 single tire.
Yeah.
So
it's more traction, more braking power.
More traction, and your weight on there. I mean, just comment, since you were so nice about telling us the weather over there.
Yeah,
I'll tell you right now in New York City, our weather is 37 degrees.
Oh, 37 degrees. That's hockey weather.
We just dropped down a couple more degrees there, but it actually feels like 32. So,
oh, yeah, the wind chill.
There it is right now. So tomorrow's ride is going to be, I'm going to be riding in about 45 degrees there. So
yeah, that sounds like it's going to be chilly. I'm sure you'll be bundled up. And by the way, process, if you need to get up for a minute or grab a drink or anything like that, just no worries. Just let me know. That's another benefit. We're good.
We're good. I was going to comment about, since we're talking about rides, and I'd like to digress then.
Yeah.
About the patch.
Yeah.
Oh, I should say the patch, the logo, Old and In the Way.
Yes.
Okay. Was that yours, or was that you? Where did you get the was that a customized version of what you'd like yours to be, or
the image itself?
Yes, the image.
Yeah, so the image came from, I had an artist, the graphic designer create it. And what happened was on Instagram, and I have to back up for a second because you may not know this, and this is kind of a neat dynamic. If you endeavor to become a content creator, like somebody who streams live streaming like we're doing, or gets into video game streaming or making YouTube videos, there are a lot of different cottage industries in content creation that live off of, supporting content creators. And one of those areas is graphic designers. So people who will go out and do graphic design work for you. So as a streamer, I have, and this is not, not to be disparaging, but I have no shortage of graphic designers who are, making contacts and offering to help. There's tons of them out there. So it's not like they're hard to find. And the reason why I mentioned that is I was actually, I was surfing Instagram at some point, and I saw some artwork, and I really loved the design work, and I backtracked it, and I figured out who the guy was, and that it was an artist, and he was open for commissions. And turns out that he's designed several other logos that for other companies and stuff that I like. So I reached out to him and said, hey, I like your style. And then from there, what we did is, you see you asked, about that bike is very much the image that very much like what the image I had in my mind of the bike that I wanted to get and what led me down the path where I am to answer your question. So it's spot on. I told him like what my inspiration was, and then he created that. And to help narrow it down, like I was able to look at some other stuff that he drew and say, this is the kind of vibe I'm going for. But in my mind, it's that kind of that, you can see that in that logo. That's sort of the vision of like the mental image of motorcycle in my head.
That's really good because I don't know if you know this though. The image, the image brings back. Have you done any research or have you ever looked at Indian Larry?
Yes.
So Indian Larry and his work and his style and his short lifespan, when he fell off the bike standing on it, it's exactly that. And many of his models that's why it caught my eye and the thinking, oh, he must have captured this or snapped this from
do you follow Indian Larry's account or what on Instagram? I'm not sure if it's his or like his. It's obviously not him, but it's like his whatever his legacy company is that makes products with the question mark design. Yeah. You can take a look at them. Another inspiration in my mind that I think is sort of spot on is David Mann's artwork. He's very much evokes that kind of image, and I have a bit of as we talk, we'll do a little bit of intros. We'll jump around here. I'm 46, so I grew up really. My coming of age time, the earliest memories and things that I have are really in the 80s, and then I was at high school in the early 90s. That's my time frame. But my earliest memories are like looking at all the leftover stuff from the 70s is the way it kind of felt like to me. Like all the things that people had left in their basements once the 80s started. I was 5 or 6 years old down there looking at, different old artwork and watching. I had an uncle who was a Frank Frazetta fan, really big artist. And he, probably against my mother's better judgment, let me watch like a lot of gritty movies and kung fu stuff, and it just kind of like it appealed to me. So that style, I like that quite a bit, and that's you can see a little bit of that in there too, I think, and the way that this guy's art looks like that. So definitely an inspiration, but that in my mind, that's that kind of 70s-esque period.
Yep, you're absolutely right. I had the good fortune, a gentleman. He was such an old school biker that he was a few blocks away from our house.
Yep.
And he had that. I mean, where do you see an old school biker with a little ratty hat, a little cigar in a shop where there's gasoline, flammable items? But there he is with his stogie always in his mouth. Never had more than 2 bikes in his shop at a time. Would berate you. He would yell at you, and you have to remind him you're the customer. He didn't care whether you were the customer or not. He told you as it was.
Right.
You can't get any more old school. And one of his bikes was he was so proud of it because he made this cubistic gas tank before OCC choppers, before Indian Larry.
The coffin style.
How's that?
Was it like a coffin style, like boxy?
Coffin
Is that
style? Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He was on the old Chopper magazines, and he still had it in the front of his shop. And he would look at me. He would repeat the story 100 times, but he would show me. You see that, kid? That was handmade, not machine. I hammered, Yeah,
and I'm writing down a note because this is like, first of all, what you're describing, like the handmade piece too. Like there's put a pin in that because there's an aspect of why I set out to ride and why I think I enjoy riding as much as I do. That has to do with the mechanical aspect of a motorcycle and understanding and appreciating value in places where I didn't see it, where I hadn't really recognized it and understood it before. An easy example being, if you are someone who is if you're into motorcycles, for lack of a better phrase, whatever you want to call it, you can show somebody, like a hard to find C-clamp, and most people will look at it and say, that's a piece of garbage. But you can show it to somebody who's like, oh my God, somebody like me who's trying to find one to put a windshield or something on their bike will look at that little piece of metal that will last forever and say, this is as good as a diamond to me, for reasons that are very difficult to explain to other people. So part of that's why it's a very but definitely one thing I just want to mention from a shop culture standpoint, and this is kind of bring us to what is this show and what are we doing here. In addition to the imagery, what old and in the way means is that, it's old and in the way actually was the phrase, the name rattling around in my head was about a 1 or 2 year long musical project between Jerry Garcia and a handful of other musicians of the time in the this is like 73, 74, before my time. It was a short-lived little side project, and the name Old and in the Way has rattled around my head for years because it always to me meant two different things. And when I decided to do this show, what it means basically is, the people who are often considered old and in your way are often the people who are old and really knowledgeable in the way. And that's where you get information you just can't get anywhere else. And when you talked about knowing somebody who's in a shop, I grew up in suburban Connecticut. There wasn't a motorcycle shop anywhere to be found nearby where I was, at least that I knew of. My parents were not riders of any kind. So I didn't have any exposure to that. So, and as you get older, the harder it is to crack the culture too, because it's hard. It becomes more difficult. People are more, less might be more reluctant to let somebody who's an older person kind of into the fold versus somebody who's new that, you're kind of, so this is an opportunity to get together and talk to people where we can say, hey, what are the things, what is that knowledge? And we can debate, there's never one right answer to these things. And I thought to myself, well, some people aren't as fortunate as I am to have somebody, a friend and a family member in their life who is somebody who's extremely knowledgeable. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get TLC with me here and see if he's down for this and can help me kind of, help me sort of be my Sherpa, because I haven't, I don't have the miles yet. I haven't paid all my dues, and I don't pretend to have done that. So I think, you lend me some credibility and can help me understand some of these things that I'm dying to understand, that you just can't find it in a book. There's no index to go find. This is a great one. Why do people the Mexican, I'm going to pronounce this wrong and I shouldn't because I live in eyesight of the Mexican border, the serape, it's a blanket, you bed rolls that, people put leather bed rolls on the front of their bike. There's significance behind that. You can't, there's no you can eventually figure it out, but it's not like something that's easy to find. And I don't want to roll up at the, bike night at the, heavily Mexican, area where I live in and be like, hello fellows, why the blankets? So anyway, this makes it this is the purpose behind this show, and we have a ton of things to explore. So I think that is the bike culture thing. When you said that, I was scribbling a note that people who have access and live in those, grow up or have family members who give them exposure, it's such a great way to learn and soak up information. And to me, I see people like you as like, I want to tell me more kind of. I could soak up things with a sponge. So, all right, let's go ahead and quick time check. It's 4:48 in the PM here, Pacific time, 7:48 Eastern time. Temperature 68. We're still falling. One of the features we're going to do on the show is dudes use part of the week. So this is going to be kind of an evolving segment that we do, Carlos, where we take a look at a motorcycle part, particularly something that was bought or sold in the secondhand market, and expound on what it is, its value, and in particular, I'm keeping an eye out for some strange things on eBay and other places that we can use as some, we'll say kind of like a quasi show and tell, where I'm going to bring something to the table and I'm going to work with you to try to help me understand what it is and what it means. So for this week, though, we've got a special. So the used part of the week is, and I got to put it up. I'll throw it up on the gram. You can take a look at it. I replaced my original, so this is a little bit of live testing here. Let's see if it works. Go hand cam. I said go hand cam. There it is. Okay, so this is. Let me move all the show notes and stuff out of the way. Bear with me here, and I'll try to talk without moving too much around. So I replaced the solo seat that came on my my Sportster, my 2013 Sportster 72 1200. This is your run-of-the-mill solo seat here. Harley, I believe I've been able to backtrack that this is actually the stock seat that comes on an XL 883. So I'm pretty sure, based on the pictures of I bought my bike used from a dealership, and in the first pictures they posted on their website, there was I think the Harley Brawler model solo seat. So they must, my guess is, as bikes come in for trade-ins, they probably swap takeoff parts and things like that. So at any rate, I replaced the solo seat and the passenger, and I learned a new word. Pillion? How do you pronounce that? Do you know the word I'm talking about? Is it
Pillion?
All right, so that's technically, I'm actually French, I should know that, but replaced Pillion,
Yeah.
like papillon.
Yes.
So replace that as well. And really, I don't ride with passengers, but I bought this for like $40 on eBay. This is OEM Harley part. Not easy. I would have bought a new one on the website, but they were back ordered 6 weeks or 8 weeks, so I bought one on eBay. Replaced that with the 2-up. $99 shipping included, so $99 all in. I paid for the used 2-up seat. It's OEM Harley part. It's got a tiny little centimeter little nick on one side of it, little blemish. That's hardly here nor there. And I got a good 80, 90 mile ride in on this past weekend, and butt tested it. Cheeks felt great. No numbness, and that, I almost 100 miles and no numbness. So I thought I was feeling pretty good. And I thought I made $100 for a Harley OEM part. And close to perfect condition, I thought was a steal versus, ending up spending a few hundred on either Harley OEM new or something aftermarket that's, not crappy. So that's the part of the week, is the 2-up. I should have had the picture up here loaded. That was so far the one ball we've dropped so far, but you got to see the old seats. And by the way, if you're interested, these will be going up on Dude's Used Motorcycle parts and stuff. So we'll keep these things out of the landfill as I buy parts. I sell the old ones to finance my ongoing ventures and to keep my wife from cutting me off. Do you have as much fun? Do you have as much fun hunting for parts as I do?
You know what? I have to go back and dress back to your seat. It's funny. You do remind me. One of my a bike that I did get a little bit. One of my last bikes that I started customizing it a bit, and I did similar to what you did. Pity you didn't see that bike. I had a 2018 Heritage Softail Classic.
Oh yeah.
And this was a 1700cc engine, and so this was a beast.
That's a beefy
This was
bike.
a real. This is the kind of bike that you crack that throttle, and your armpits were still. It's sort of like your arms were still hanging on to it, but you were gone. You know, and your hands on it. And I had also taken the seat and removed it and made it into a solo seat because I didn't want to take anybody.
Right.
So what I did was I took off that pinion seat and I put, because I didn't want anybody to be with me.
Right.
So I replaced it with a very cool luggage rack.
Ah, I need
So
one
the
of those.
So the luggage rack, so when you're riding solo, it's cool because then you do have the luxury of tying stuff on. I mean, not that the solo seat, you couldn't do it on the pinion, but I thought that it added a cool look to it.
Right.
And I got it in actually chrome black. So, which was really
So like a
hard.
glossy black. And it's a stupid question, but
Yeah, no, it was a shiny black, but it was such a cool black that because the bike was already black and red,
right. Huh.
so it already had that, and it had a mini backrest. So I changed, so I was always able to get around by telling people, what so no, I can't take you for a ride. No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I have no space, like
Yeah.
that, because the dynamics of riding with a body.
Yeah.
I always tell folks, learn how to ride yourself
Yeah.
first, and take the challenge, improve your skill level. What you do to yourself is nothing what you can do to a family member.
Yeah, it's funny. Not funny. I'm glad you mentioned that. My outlook is, and you tell me if I'm, I don't think, I think I'm not being overly cautious when I say that I am in no rush to learn how to ride with a passenger or to start taking passengers. I don't have any practical reason to need to do it. And I don't have, there's no part of me that's itches to do this. And in fact, I like the look, and I think for obvious reasons, probably like most riders, I want my bike to, having a rear seat offers, keeps a bag off my bumper, off the tail, right? So there's functionality to it, there's aesthetics to it, but I don't have any interest in taking a rider on yet, and I don't feel like I have any need to. And I think most people I've talked to, and I'm interested to hear your opinion, are like, that's, you're not missing out on anything. Just learn to ride yourself.
You know what? I'm sure that you get a lot of questions. Why did you ride? How come? And then some people will say, "Oh, I'll never ride on it." And you try, when you press them,
Yeah.
you say, "Well, my brother, my cousin, my uncle, he took me on a ride, and boom."
Yeah.
Or they're dangerous.
Yeah.
And you get all of these, and you try to look at them and say, did you have someone that was responsible? What
Right.
kind of bike was he trying to get you on? Was it a crotch rocket and you had to have your ass on a thimble?
Nowhere to
Or
put your
was
feet.
this guy a crazy lunatic that drove? So it all affects
Yeah.
the perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and that is, I am better off. You could have and actually, you know what? Let's make a note of that. I think this is a show worth having. It's a topic worth having a show on, which is the reaction that people have when you tell them that you ride a motorcycle. And I'm still a relatively new rider, so it's not like I've been dealing with this my whole life or whatever. But what I find interesting is that there's a lot of video art out there and on Instagram and other places from people who ride, talking about, everybody always gives you, grief about it, but, just people don't understand why. And there are kind of common things you hear, and how do you navigate those conversations? So that's, we'll tackle that for another day. But, you mentioned not wanting to ride a sewing machine. My Suzuki, my little Gixxer 250 was a great bike. It felt good. It was kind of noisy. It made you got up high RPMs and made some noise, but it was very institutional. There's just something you can't explain behind the combination of chaos and control, and at the same time of being on, just a really loud, and that you can feel it physically and acoustically, that it's, it's much better than riding a sewing machine, for sure.
if I'm going to backtrack, and that's something that we should consider if people check in with us, is again the viewer, the listener is could be from the new guy that's curious about why would I want to ride, or the guy who's already been riding wants to learn more, and it can be the seasoned vet saying, what do these guys have to offer,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And I'll tell you a very quick story. In working in one of my jobs, my boss, he was a senior vice president of financial area.
I won't say
he
the name of the
knew-
company, but was this the music business?
Is in the music business,
Okay.
yes. And what happened was he was interested by the wanted to always do it. It was on his bucket list to ride, but he didn't have anybody. And now somebody who works for him is so he takes me to. He said we went to a motorcycle show. Now here's an individual that I thought, with the expectation, I was going to give him advice. We were going to take a look at it and tell him the difference between a cruiser and a general purpose bike or a tourer, or and I thought it was going to be like that, and just to kind of see, this is a Honda, this is Ducati, this is a Harley, and and that was it.
Yeah.
That's what I expected. I said, I told him, just go out there and just get into it, but
Yeah.
just thought, imagine at the end of that, and he says, I did it. And I said, you did what? He says, I bought it. I bought the whole thing. I said, what? Yeah.
Whenever
it's
somebody
gotta-
says the whole thing, it's got to be that's like uh-oh.
And he's my boss, so I'm trying to be like respectful, but at the same time saying, you did what? He says, oh yeah, I got the Kawasaki 750, the Kawasaki Vulcan 750, and my mouth is like, he says, I got leather jacket, I got chaps, I said, but you've never been on a motorcycle. And he says, yeah, but I bought also lessons and a trailer. So I was like, how are you? I was just stuttering. He says, yeah, they're bringing the dealership. I bought it here. You bought it here at a convention center where
Oh my God, off the floor?
off the floor. And so I never came over to his house, and I understand he started taking the lessons by riding in his cul-de-sac, going around in circle. And I said, let me ask you. And like that's what I would ask anybody who buys a bike. What's your intent? Is your intent to ride it, from here to the corner store? Are you going to 10 miles away, 100 miles away? What's your purpose? What kind of riding do you do? Are you going to do short, long, day? What, do you have any idea whether or not you can even hold this motorcycle up?
Right.
And he stared at me. He says, well, I'm just going to ride from my house to my stables. I said, how far is that? He said, about 5 miles.
Wait, I need to ask a clarifying question. Was that stables as in place where you ride horses, or staples as in easy button?
No, as in stables, as in horses, as
Okay.
in he had several horses.
Okay. All right. So at least he'd ridden something before.
Well,
Or looked at, or at least we'll just say
he.
he owns horses. We don't know if he's ridden anything yet.
No, he was just independently wealthy, and I think he just got caught up into the whole. And so what happened? The end of the story is, he was doing his house to stables and back, and he went a little hot on the corner, and he went over the edge. He went tumbling down the side of the road, and that was it. That was the end of his riding career.
Yeah, I can understand. All right.
And he sold the bike, and he gave me his leather jacket, which I still have today. So his only memento that's left of the man
Yeah.
is a leather jacket. It looks like I am an easy rider on the road.
They hold their value. Yeah, that's
And his wife never spoke to me again because she blamed me for corrupting his mind.
yeah, for
How can
corrupting his
I corrupt
morals.
the senior vice president's mind,
Yep.
and he's my boss. You nod and smile and say, yes, sir.
Yeah, at least he got it out of his system or tried it. And I welcome our intrepid producer, Emeritus Scott. Thank you. Hopefully I didn't give you too much stress or grief. I had a bit of a time time zone borking yesterday, trying to get the three of us synchronized. And I could tell you that at one point, while I was trying to send both of you guys messages to line up the timing, Liz interrupted me in the form of, excuse me, are you in the middle of something? And I said, I'm trying to do this time zone thing, and I can't. I'm not sure that I'm going to get these numbers right. So it's my fault for not paying close enough attention if I gave you the wrong times.
Yeah, you did. And my mistake was following your math.
Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah. Lesson learned. But thank you, and hopefully you didn't. Hopefully it didn't give you any agita. And I think, fingers crossed. Just as a technical process note, I think we are so far so good. We had. I did pre-show checks and where I recorded output and everything, and then Abby popped in before and was able to confirm that she listened to the broadcast via stream. So knock on wood, we should be okay.
Well, good. I can see the stream in one of my other screens here. It looks good.
And we were just kind of starting to get into the core topic. We got through some of the you missed Dude's used motorcycle part of the week, new seat, which probably is not really exciting for some, but that's one of those things that if you don't ride, probably a new seat doesn't sound super exciting. But nor have you spent thousands of hours on eBay closely tracking the secondhand market prices of used Harley Davidson seats. But at any rate, I digress. So we were just talking about, the Uncle Carlos was the sensei was telling a story about getting somebody into riding who quickly exited. I've only been riding for about 3 years or so now, and it was never earlier in my life, it was never something that I thought about doing or considered, mostly because I lived in the Northeast and it wasn't practical, didn't have tons of money. I was also used to be a serious beer drinker back in the day, and it's, so it didn't seem like motorcycles seemed like probably not something I needed to add to my motor pool, maybe more tires than fewer. But as I've, matured and moved to Southern California, I got to a point where I've always been fascinated. I've always had that bike that you see in the logo kind of in my head, and all the circumstances lined up. So I think I followed very much like I took the course. I've read and continue to read everything I can find to intellectually learn the art of riding. I practice. I bought a lightweight, low-powered bike that I rode for 2 years before I, bought up to something bigger. So I didn't go out and buy, a Hayabusa, or something like that goes 200 miles an hour. And that's one of the things, by the way, I'm not the first person to say this, but America is great in that you can go into the Suzuki dealership and buy a $12,000 or $13,000 bike there that does like 200 miles an hour, like off the lot, without any aftermarket upgrades or whatever, and never have ridden a bike before. And before I digress too much, this is how naive I was when I started getting interested in learning to ride, and I started calling around to dealerships and asking about, going in to talk to people and maybe getting the test ride. I was concerned about not having my license and whether or not I would be able to do anything. Well, I quickly found out that doesn't matter at all. And when I went and took my course, there was like maybe 20 people in the course with me, and it was only me and maybe 2 teenage kids that were taking it who were just learning how to ride. Everybody else was there and had been riding dirty for years and just was trying to get their license. So, I definitely, unlike the senior vice president, I feel like I kind of waded into it with a little bit of presence of mind. But it took a lot of convincing on Liz to get Liz on board for sure.
Well, don't forget you had a moped in high school, too.
We did have a moped. We had Carlos, I don't know if I ever told you this, but we had a friend of ours, and I'm going to try to get him, this friend who now makes fantastic barbecue food products, prancing-pig.com. I'm going to try to get him to sponsor us. He had an older brother. I don't know if I should be diming this guy out this way, but let's just say he needed a moped for a period of 90 days when he couldn't use his car. And when his car was in the shop, and
For 90 days.
once he got his once he got his car back, he gave us the moped, and we used it, and we drove the hell out of that thing, and to the point like we broke. I remember we beat this thing so bad we eventually broke the throttle grip. Didn't know how to fix it, so the throttle was you just had to hold the cable with one hand, and we took that thing off road. It was great. That was my first experience.
Until Kevin wrecked it and looked like he fell in a garbage disposal.
Oh God, yeah, I remember picking. Yeah, one of my friends dumped it on my street, and I can remember sitting in my bathroom upstairs in our house picking rocks out of his back. But so on that note, that's how not to ride. Today's we're gonna jump into the topic du jour, which I want to talk about the long road, which is getting ready for and surviving a long ride. And Sensei, I asked you to prepare for this, and I've got some slides and some visual aids here flimming by that this is on our site, and it'll be in the episode notes after the fact. I just threw these up pretty quick before we started, so I can zoom in and we can stop and talk if we need to on any one particular item. But for our listeners and our viewers' sake, a long ride or a run in motorcycle culture is if you get away from commuting or kind of institutional riding like you might be doing to go get your groceries. A lot of people, and I can't say scientifically what that number is, most of us are looking forward to ride, to go places, to get out and to explore. And the idea of being able to take a long ride, I think, is sort of one of the romantic attractions, if you want to call it that, to motorcycle riding, that, the pursuit of going and exploring. There are as many things to think about before you go on a ride as there are people to tell you different tips and tricks out there. And I have found that it is cavernous in terms of what you should bring, what you should do, what you should think about. And I've got a ride coming up in March where I'm going to be going from San Diego to Vegas. So I thought this would be a good place to talk about, Sensei, you've been there and done that. And, I have only so much storage and so much capacity, despite my MacGyver rigging of my bike to carry stuff. So that's got to be a concern. What should we be thinking about before we start off on a long ride? I'm going to kick it over to you and shut up for a minute and let you tell me how you think about this. And I got some questions I'll fire at you, but go ahead and give us your overview on how do you prep for a run.
Well, first of all, you gotta ask yourself, do you have the endurance? What's the length of this ride? When you're talking about riding with a group, are you going to be in that saddle just a couple hours straight? Are you going to be in there maybe 4 or 5 hours? Are you going to be there? How many miles do you think you can do? And it basically comes down to physical endurance. It's like anything, running a marathon, running a race.
Right.
You build up to it. So if you're used to, like you said, going to you go to the beach and it's only 5 miles away and you do your shuttle back and forth. It's different when you're saying, I'm going up into the mountains and I'm going to do 100 miles up that way. You certainly, are you ready for that? Are you prepared in the event that something should happen, And that's really what it starts boiling down to. Second, you have the unique situation different in a run. Correct me if I'm wrong. When you do this ride to Vegas, your family is going to be parallel to you, in front of you, behind you?
It's a good question. We're going to the ride we're talking about, San Diego, California, as opposed to San Diego, Ohio. San Diego, California. There's a Miami of Ohio. That's another show. But San Diego, California to Las Vegas, and they're going to drive because none of them ride motorcycles, and they may just go. I don't think that we haven't decided how we're gonna do that. We may end up riding together like what you're describing, because I want to see if I can make going to Laughlin and Bull River, like up the Colorado River on the Arizona border, up that way to Vegas as part of the trip. So if we do that, we'll ride together. Otherwise, I'll be by myself.
Because the reason I say that, I've done Milwaukee with a team and without a team, and when you're talking about your endurance, can you cover in a given day 500, 600 miles? That's you don't know until you know whether or
Right.
not your endurance and whether or not you're
Well,
up
let me
for
ask you a
that.
question. So I have an idea in my head what this is, but somebody asked me the other day, what's a long ride? What's a long day? And from what I've learned so far, that 400 or 500 miles in a day, is considered like, respectable. Like if you do 400 or 500 miles in a day, you didn't lollygag. 1,000 miles in a day is like, you're lying. I don't think you did that, but that's, some people do. I know there's
The
like
only
a 10.
people who do 1,000 miles a day is
Are
the
on
guys
meth.
who are part of the Iron Butt Association.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't there that 10,000 mile? There's like a 10,000 mile. The guy he's passed away, but the guy who used to own who owns the tattoo parlor that Liz and I go to is a ex Navy SEAL guy. And he did this, like, there's some name for it where it's like a 10,000 mile ride around North America every year. And it's like a race to see how fast you can do it. And, but like, so anyway, I've heard 5 hours or 500 miles a day is like, is that a bar? What is your number for,
You know what? Think about it, because you're going to I have a rough rule of thumb, knowing that my bike at around 100 miles, I'm going to start looking for a gas station, a break. I give myself 100 to 120 miles in that range, because I know that my touring capacity on the bike could be 140, 160. Now you have a smaller gas tank,
right.
so you're going to have to adjust yourself because of the gas capacity, as we do. When we ride with Sportsters, we have to just remind ourselves, the guys who have the bigger gas tanks are going to tell the smaller guy, oh, wow, we got to stop for this guy. Why? Because his gas capacity is. But even if you had a big gas tank capacity, a good rule of thumb, if you think you can be comfortable in that laid back posture, do you have highway pegs on your bike?
Not yet. No.
That's crucial.
Well, let me ask you.
Because it's
stop. Hold on that thought for a second, and I want to put a pin in there. We'll have to come back to this topic. I am. I'm not sure how comfortable I like my feet where they are right now on the highway. I sense the need and the desire to kick back. Like I'm getting to the point where on longer highway runs, I can see myself, putting them back. But I'm not sure that, like, I feel like having my feet at a, say, 45-degree angle versus like a 90-degree angle, where if they were straight out on like highway pegs, I feel like I have more control on my bike. So I'm getting there. Like eventually I want to try them, but right now I like being able to push hard on my front, kind of push down, and like I'm water skiing almost,
Yep. What's the longest ride you've ever done time-wise?
So good question. And going back to your time wise, so like I have a 2.1 gallon tank, so I can get about 90 miles to a tank. I obviously don't push it that way. I'm the kind of person who doesn't usually let their phone battery get below 80%. So I will go as far as 70 miles, and then I will stop. I'll have to stop by 70. That's as far as I go. So basically, any ride I do, I can assume I'm going to stop every 60 or 70 miles. I do have a larger tank I'm going to put on my bike eventually, and I do have a 30-ounce fuel canister that I can carry with me on longer rides, so I have an emergency if something goes wrong and I need it. But my longest ride thus far that I've done is about in a day. I'd have to go back and double check on Rever, but it's probably about 300 miles, and maybe just under that. And in that was probably 5 hours, maybe 4 hours of riding time, maybe 6 hours total time for the ride. Vegas, from where I'm at, if I were to go straight there, is about 360, I think, maybe 380, and probably a 4-hour drive. The part of the reason is between me and Vegas are mountains, so there's sort of options of going north and around, or south and around, or through. And even though it's going through involves a lot of switchbacks and kind of slower riding at spots, which is it's good spot if you're on a motorcycle. Probably suck if you're in a car, but that's the surrounding the deets for this trip I've got planned in terms of distance and my capability, I think.
See, and so a lot of the stuff that you have the slideshow up there that I prepared for you, that's really more meant for, all right, you're going to do 500, 600 miles in some place. There's no support vehicle. It's you, yourself, and you.
Right.
You know, maybe with another guy. And so that's why I was thinking about the family, because you don't have to worry about clothing. You don't have to worry about food. You don't have to worry about carrying extra snacks and any stuff, because you got a support vehicle that's tagging along with you.
Yeah,
you know?
I do want to think about it that way, though. I do, and it. So you're right. I will have the capability to throw stuff in their car, and also have that as a backup if I need it. That having been said, from a prep standpoint, I want to think about it, and part of what appeals to me is I want to have everything I could possibly need with me. I know I can only carry and bring so many things, so there's a certain fascination I have in the efficiency and creativity of what are the things that are really important. And you've been riding for decades. Are there things you can think about? Is there something you could think about off the top of your head, for example, that you had on your bike forever that you finally took off and like, why the hell am I carrying this around with me? I'm curious. I've read some other stories, and I have one that I'll tell you that is what I've heard consistently is the absolute lifesaver to keep with you. I won't tell you what it is, but let me let you answer the question. Did you ever find yourself have you been efficient, or do you find that over time you're like, I don't know why I have this?
You know what? Experience dictated when I would bring the whole kitchen sink and realize I never used half the kitchen sink anyway.
Right.
And instead of you learn by experience, what is efficient and what is not necessary. The slideshow, can you stop?
Yeah, let me see if I can
and bring it back to slide.
Let me see if I can here. Oops, sorry about that. Hang on.
Could you just do it? Because there's one of the key slides in there that I shared.
Which one do you want to look at?
We can kind of the tool capacity. Yeah, let's go with the basic on the tool one. And and you already answered that.
Right here.
You already have the endurance and keep on going. Can't read that. What to pack and spec. Go back. Go back to what to pack. You can have that there also.
Okay.
We can just go back to that first one slide there. Go back. One more.
Comms, have fun, stay alert. Earplugs. That's
okay. Here.
Is it this one? Can you see it? It looks like it's tiny, huh? That's technical difficulty. All right, well, I'll have to figure out if I can zoom in on this. Give me just a second here. Huh. I don't know why that came up so tiny like that. I got an idea, though. All right, keep chatting for a second. I'm going to pop this up. I'm going to change it.
And I, as we've said to all the members, this is not the gospel. This is not that it has to be or it should be this way. It is what's recommended.
Yeah.
And everybody's different in their mannerism. I'll give you a very quick.
I'm counting on that.
What's that?
I said I'm counting on that. Actually, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show is because, there's motorcycle riding and culture, and it's probably a combination of a bunch of different things we could unpack. But there's always more than one right answer. And people are very passionate.
It's just you're going to find the right answer for you.
Right.
It may not be right for me, but it might be right for you, and it might be comfortable for you. The reason I say that, I remember a young guy. We were going down to the Bluegrass Mountains, and we were going to be. It was about 5 of us. We were going to be on the road for about 5 days, 6 days. And this guy came to my friend's house, the ride leader, and he had everything on his Sportster. I mean, I never saw so many bungee cords. I never saw so much rope.
It sounds
attached
like
to this
me.
thing. This thing was like about 6 feet high. You know, with it looked like a guy who was from Deliverance. You know, what I mean,
Yeah.
all he was missing was pots and pans and being Okie from Skokie. You know, what I mean,
Yeah.
the ride leader, this guy was about a grizzled New Yorker, hardcore New Yorker. You know, he did not mince any words. He started saying, "What is the matter with you?" And he started ripping things off the guy's bike. You don't need this. He threw
Yeah.
it off. You don't need this. And he left the guy with a little duffel bag. And
Yeah.
the guy was crying. Guy was
Yeah.
crying. He was like, "What? Wait a minute." He says, "That's all you need. The rest of it, you can buy them at Walmart." You know.
Yeah,
And that was it.
yeah, yeah. You don't need to care. I'm sure you guys remember the Pee Wee Herman movie. You know, the first Pee Wee's Big Adventure with his bike, and he had like 9,000 things on it. That's me. I am like I've read some stuff about like the Hell's Angels and sort of the early outlaw motorcycle ethos of, you know, the idea of stripped down bikes versus, you know, garbage wagons that are, you know, from the dealership and all that. It's an interesting. I love having the ability to bring what I need with me and knowing that I have it if I need it, which is probably more of like
Right.
an OCD thing.
But you know what? If you had look at your bike and look at my bike,
Right.
I can carry the whole kitchen sink and still have spare. And you got to be carrying toothbrush and a comb and maybe a stick of gum. You know.
Yeah, I got a cup holder.
Yeah. So the point is, like I said over here in that slide, you know, there's no rules. There's only guidelines. You know, there's no right way or wrong way. Is if you feel that you got to carry, and I'm going to make this up, and one of the other slides talks about it, is take everything that you think is going to make you feel all warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
All right, throw that shit on the
The
floor.
whoobies, the comfort stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff there, you know, from the picture frames to your dog, to your cat's, you know, blanket, whatever, you know.
Long
You
Johns.
throw it on that. And now comes, do I really need all this stuff? Can you possibly pack all that shit
Yeah.
on your bike?
Yeah.
That's what you gotta really look. And that's when you start saying, you know, that old blanket, maybe I don't need it. Maybe I
Exactly.
don't need those 3 jackets, 2 leather coats, and the YMCA leather chaps. You know,
Yeah. And the special hat and the, you know, that's, you know, I think there's somewhere else you said here, and I'm gonna change the slide for a second here. Let me get to it. Where is it? The weather. I want to talk about this for a second. So, yeah, I've had to be. You know, I don't have saddlebags on my bike currently. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'll add them at some point. I've got a few utility bags. I have a backpack that I can, you know, take on and off the back with me, and I have I have like a Harley like weekender bag that I can throw on the back if I need it.
well, there's some great bags. You have. I don't remember your sissy bar.
Yeah, I have
But
like
if
just a
that's-
regular, like it's about a 2-foot sissy bar, like, you know, your regular kind of size.
You know, there's a lot saddlebags, saddleman bags, leather bags. There, everybody's got. If you talk about looking at a part,
Yeah,
now all you got to start looking at is can you pack up neatly, roll up everything in a giant, humongous backpack?
yeah,
That's what you gotta think about.
yeah,
Now, if you can always buy the removable saddlebags,
Right,
that
the
doesn't mean you need
throwovers.
to ride them all the time. You can just slip them on. So for that travel, you got these big, nice saddlebags and a sissy bar, and then don't forget you have that pinion seat that you're going to put another bag on it. So you got
Yeah.
something hanging on the back of the sissy bar, you got something in the front of the sissy bar, and you got the 2 saddlebags.
yeah. This
That
is, I don't know if
doesn't
you
give
guys
enough
see.
space, you know.
This is
Then
actually,
you really gotta think of leaving some stuff home.
this I bought, and this is kind of, I really don't, it's not something I need often, but this is like a weekender, like basically like a travel bag, like kind of like an airport thing, because it's got a tons of storage in it, and it's got a laptop sleeve in it, and my company is, we've got offices in a few different places between here and Northern California. So like I wanted to have something that if I have to go to the office, like I can get work stuff in it, and separate from the bag I've got like an oily rag in, or whatever. So it's I'm go ahead.
Go back to the slide about plan for the weather. Can you stop it there?
Yes, I can. I think
Stop
I'm
there,
getting good
and
at
I
this.
just want to.
Inspector, it's red. I know that. Here it is.
That's earplugs.
Give it a sec. It'll catch up. I'm ahead of you.
There you go.
Plan for every kind of weather.
I carry right now, when I got the bike back from the shop, the first thing I put back in there, without missing a beat, rain gear.
Yeah.
I have rain gear for myself and for Auntie Franny.
Right.
I have the pants and the jacket, lightweight, folded up really tight, and it's good for her. Not that she would ever be out, because she checks the weather 25 times before anybody.
Yeah.
But that's weather.
I don't. The weather thing is we live in Southern California, so where I am, and this is like I don't.
Yeah, I loved your weather.
Yeah, it's hard for me to explain this, I think. And Newman, well, you guys got tons of rain in Florida. I was thinking about the heat, not the rain and where you were, but it's very quickly you get used to it not raining. So there's like, it rains like around the winter time here, like it's been raining recently. It's been crappy, but then like another month, after another month, it won't rain again until next November. And you forget about it, right? So it's like rain is never something you have to worry about here. And as a rider, that's like a huge deal.
Yes.
It doesn't mean, that's not to say you don't plan for rain. Don't get me wrong. That's not, but I ran into it so I have the luxury of basically saying, like, if it's gonna rain, I don't ride. Like if there looks like there's a chance of rain, like between where I'm going or what's gonna happen while I would be out, I don't have to go anywhere. So I haven't tried to ride in the rain. Inevitably, you get caught, and I'm sure that's what you're thinking, and you have no choice. So I did get Liz cut her finger a few weeks ago at work, and I had to go over to the emergency room just to make sure she was, going to live while she got a few stitches. And it rained. I didn't know it was going to rain. I came out of the place, it was raining, and I was like, oh shit, here we go. But, I got it out of my system. Having a windshield helps, but I didn't have rain gear on. So of course, by the time I went 2 miles, my pants were soaked, and so definitely need to have some gear on, available if I need it just for an emergency.
Again, I probably plan to do a long ride. I'm not sure if Auntie Franny's going to come with me or not, but I intend to do from New York to North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
And between New York and North Carolina, anything can happen with the weather, cold, rain. So I have to prepare for that. Always have the inclement weather. I came up with techniques like, for example, I told the chapter, I said, you're riding with leather gloves. Your gloves get wet. You're screwed. You're wet. Your hands are clammy. You're cold. Ugh. But if you think that you're going to be going into rain, but you didn't want to buy those special weather-treated gloves, so buy those latex gloves
and stick them in like liners.
Put them on first and put the leather glove over it.
Yeah.
Your hand's still warm and protects you.
Yeah. That's a great idea. Yeah.
Put your foot, your boots. Your boots are not weatherproof, unless they're really, you waxed them, you already, weather. So what I would bring is those small plastic bags. You put your foot into that plastic bag and you put the foot inside the boot. Now you got a waterproof boot.
Yeah. Yeah, don't do that with your helmet, but yeah, the boots are. I drove for about 5 minutes. I don't remember anything after that. Yeah, I have to eventually look at making sure, like I said, I have the luxury right now that I can pretty much avoid being in the rain. But
your challenge is, will it get very hot or very cold?
Yeah, it is, and it's that's another thing. Between you experience a few different geographies between here and Vegas, depending on which way you go. And I am, I will say this much, and so before I try, I'll bring us around and we can start working on wrapping up. But I want to ask. I said before that there's one item that people have told me is the absolute lifesaver to have on you. I will give you a hint. I have on your bike if you're out in case of an emergency.
Leatherman tool.
No, you jumped the gun. I will give you a hint. It's not a tool. I suppose it could be used as a tool, but it is not a tool. It is an item. It is mechanical in nature, so it's not like a sock or a lucky rabbit's foot. I don't have the I did not take full advantage of I forgot to use this before. No man. Did you hear that? Did that make its way through?
That, yep. I was going to say not a flashlight.
No, that's a good one. The answer was cable for brake or throttle cable. I guess there's probably a technical name I'm forgetting, but
okay.
That if that snaps, it's one of those things that it's very hard to fabricate any other way than just like having it, and it's not. But I've read that several people have said that's a lifesaver. So that number two would be zip ties.
I carry a cable. I have a cable, but then also I had like clips at the end in case I had to charge somebody. So yeah, all of that. Again, you find out depending upon your bike, does your bike rattle and roll? And things come apart, then you'll find that a needle nose pliers is your best friend along with a Leatherman.
Yeah.
Or a pair of pliers is your best. And then there's some guys that say, hey, they swear by duct tape. So.
I did invest in a new Leatherman recently, and I've narrowed it down to, and I'll post some pictures on the website or on Instagram of like my little go bag and what I've got. But I've got a slim down tool roll, and I have a bag just for that, where I've got that kind of stuff that's like in case of an emergency, and then some easy access stuff. But your zip ties and needle nose pliers and a wrench or two here and there that have definitely helped me out. Fortunately, my bike is 2013, which is not necessarily newer, but it's I've been keeping it pretty well serviced thus far, and the dealership I bought it from is taking pretty good care of me. So I get to go back. I've still got a warranty on it, so I get regular service and all that. So I'll definitely take it in. I'll need to go in before I do this ride in March, so that's something I'll make sure that I check all my fluids and all that kind of stuff, because I have no idea, like brake fluid and stuff, what right is supposed to look like. So I'm a long way off from technically knowing what to do.
All right.
However, wait a minute. Before I wrap up, I will say this. Okay, so one thing I did buy that I said I don't know what to do with my changing fluids, but I did invest in a service manual. So this cost me right here, this service manual. Newman, you're a book person, and that I know you have had to, over the course of years, purchase many academic type large books like that. What do you think that bad boy cost me?
It's got to be at least $89.
Sportster models, Harley Davidson. This is brand new 2013 Harley Davidson service model. So this is just for the 2013. I paid $150 for this from the dealership. Yeah. And I thought it was a lot. I didn't balk at it, but I went to shortly after I bought this, I went to San Diego Customs, which I think I'm going to be repping a little San Diego Customs here. Speaking, if anybody wants to sponsor us, I went to San Diego Customs to inquire about getting this tank I have rebuilt or repainted and all that. And the guy who was helping me I think it's the guy who owns San Diego Customs, he was flipping through something on a computer, heads down, trying to show me how to find the right OEM part for the tank to buy. Like basically go out and buy this tank and bring it back. And he's got his heads down and he's doing it. He's going through, and I'm just making conversation. I'm like, yeah, I just dropped $150 in the service manual. And he stopped cold and looked up at me and he's like, that's the best fucking money you'll ever spend. And I was like, okay. So that's it. I guess that we did it. But so, all right, we will make sure that we post all this content to the website in the wonderful slides you pulled together for us, Sensei. This has been an excellent first attempt. I think have a chance to go back and look at episode 1 and listen to it and see how everything came together. But I would say so far, mission accomplished, and it's been a success. I have had a ton of fun doing this, and I have in addition to what I've shared with you guys, we already added a couple ideas for additional shows. I would like to get to involve other folks too as we move forward, meaning, Carlos, you have access to, I know, lots of folks that you ride with. If you think of people that are, real interesting personalities or have stories or have, really knowledgeable backgrounds that would like to talk, maybe we'll get some special guests on over time as well. So there'll be more to come in terms of we can get more experts who can help us understand, all of that knowledge that you just can't find in a book. And from those people that are, as the saying goes, old and in the way. So before we wrap up, let's see here. Carlos, you got anything going on? This is the part in most shows where people talk about, is there anything you're doing, anything you want to pump, any events that you're going to be at coming up, any wreath layings or anything of the nature that you could, I don't know how this is going out to an audience of tens, but is there anybody any events you want to plug?
No, not at this point. Nothing I can think of right now. I'll keep that in mind in there. But I'll give you this. I'll pose a question for you.
Please.
What was my first? What do you think was my first bike to make? And what engine size do you think it was? The year. Want to give it a shot? Year, make, and engine size.
Before I answer this, I wanted to send you this picture before, but I was going to send it to you and Mike. Mike is, we'll just call him our brother-in-law for easier explanation. I wanted to send it to you and Mike because it said, at the top it said Harley Davidson, and it was a guy sitting in a tattoo chair, and then underneath it said, because nobody tattoos Honda on their body. So with that said, I'm going to say your first bike is probably your early 1970s Honda that I would guess somewhere in the 650 range.
Very good. You are coming along, Grasshopper. You are coming along wisely.
And they are absolutely beautiful looking bikes too. And this is one of if you watch as many of these antique shows as I do, you see them popping up for sale and people that are refinishing them. I've seen a picture of yours, I think, haven't I?
I think I might say my first one is 1970 Honda CL 450 cc.
Nice.
And in retrospect, I look back upon that and I would tell people that's the kind of bike you start, because when you drop it, you don't cry.
Yeah.
When you drop it, you don't care about the scratch or the ding.
Yeah.
It's when you get up to the bigger, newer models that you cry and worry about. We should talk about that. Picking your first bike as a topic.
Yeah, let's do that. I think that would be an excellent because this would be one of those things that you see frequently asked, frequently answered, and if you're like me trying to figure out where to go, there are unfortunately more answers out there than it's easy to wade through. So let's pen that in for our next episode. I am overjoyed and elated with how things have gone. I cannot believe that we finally got this wrapped up for, something that was just an idea has come to fruition. I can't thank you guys enough for helping me to bring this to life. I can't wait already to get into episode 2, so we'll talk about that when we connect offline. Scott, you have your tentacles into quite a few different productions. I know you were working on Christmas Morning before this. Anything you got going on you want to tell our listeners about?
No. After this, I'm just going to go check my fluids. So that's all I'm going to do. All
right. Well, check your fluids. Do that. It's Friday here, and quick time check: 5:42 p.m. on the Pacific, 8:42 on the Eastern side. So I hope that you guys have a fantastic weekend. Carlos, I know, Scott, you'll probably not be going out on a motorcycle ride this weekend. If you do, that'll mean something probably has gone horribly wrong. Carlos, hopefully the weather is good tomorrow when you get out. I look forward to seeing and hearing about it. So I'll be watching Rever to see when you're out there. So ride safe, driver side up, rubber side down.
There you go. Very good. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers, guys.
All
Take
Be
care.
safe.
Take care.
All right, this is we don't have a hard wrap up. So Scott, can you hear the music?
Right now, no.
All right, so that we got to figure out the.
I heard it for a second.
It doesn't seem to be coming through to the Zoom feed. That might be it. So.
Okay.
But listen, I thank you guys, both of you, very much. This has been a huge help. I will let you get back on with your Friday nights, and I'll circle back with email to let you know if how and what I can chop up and edit from this. But again, thank you guys so much. I can't wait to do this again. Really, really appreciate it. Tell your respective families that all of us say happy and hi everything to all of them, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.
Sounds
Thank you
good.
very
Take care,
much.
gentlemen.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Later.